Kathy, don't we?
What?
We need Kathy.
Is she in audit?
Yes, she's an audit.
So we may have to start with that.
Oh,
So audit's still going?
Audit's
Yes.
still going.
Audit
Did it start at
still-
10 o'clock this morning?
10:30.
10:30,
Ten.
yeah.
Oh my God,
We've been
what are you
gone.
talking about?
do you want me to take the minutes? We
Wouldn't
can.
you like to know?
I would like to know.
So you want me to? I could take the minutes if you want.
Okay, great.
And
You
I'll
can start.
I thought that was
and
going to be a
then
brief meeting. Good Lord.
Okay, so we'll see Oh, my goodness gracious.
Hopefully the cameras haven't been rolling yet.
Is this working?
You might as well.
So good afternoon. We're going to start our Budget Committee meeting at 1:03. Our recording secretary is still at another BET committee meeting. We have 4 today, so it's a very tight schedule because of the rest of the month being dedicated to the budget hearings. So we'll begin with our first one, which is first request, which is for parking services, release of conditions. And I'll add here that this is about the release of conditions for the department to satisfy the condition, subject to release by the Board of Estimate and Taxation upon review and acceptance by the BET of a semi-annual report from June 19 and December 19 from the Deputy Chief respecting its operations, personnel, and finances, both operation and capital. So that is our condition. Our Deputy Police Chief is not with us today. However, he did come to the budget hearings, and he gave us a updated status of his operations and capital improvement plans, which he gave to us in great detail at our meeting. He's refigured his staffing model and down currently 2 people, and there are currently 2 part-time employees currently filling the vacant positions. He talked about the Parkmobile expansion. Smart cards are being discontinued or have been discontinued. The Board of Selectmen recently increased day parking fees as well as those for the commuter lots. He talked about improvements of the department since the internal audit. And then he talked about the details of his capital projects. So I think we're ready to, do you have any questions? I
No,
don't
I
think
was-
anyone had any questions. I
I
think
was-
we're all in good,
I was going to move the item.
okay.
And because I don't think we need to bring him back to the full BET meeting since the conversation with him in the budget hearings is so robust. And with that in mind, I moved the item as a routine item.
And I'll second.
So this is a release of conditions. So I believe rather than approving, we recommend to the full BET that we release the conditions. Are you happy to?
I would adopt that.
You would, okay. Leslie, are you?
Yes, that's fine.
Senator? And so those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 4-0 is our vote on that item then. Our second item is our Board of Education. Would you like, we have
Dan Watson.
strong standing here with our
Yes.
Superintendent of Schools, our Chief Operating Officer, yes, Dr. Tony Jones, Sean O'Keefe, and Dan Watson, who heads up facilities and those operations. So would you like to run through your request? I don't know who's going to speak.
So, Dan Watson, Board of Ed Facilities Director. Good morning, good afternoon.
Afternoon, I guess, actually.
I don't know where I'm at. So, we have before you a an interim appropriation request for funding to support the repairs of a broken water line at the high school, almost exactly the same as what we came before you a year ago. A little less damage. We were able to jump on it much quicker and stave off some of the additional repairs that were necessary last time. So what we have in front of you is a breakdown of the costs associated with the repairs to ceilings and drywall systems that were damaged with the pipe. Some includes painting repairs as well, the replacement of a significant amount of damaged wood floor in the gymnasium. And also in this request is the request for funds to move forward with the replacement of the identified joints that were similar to the ones that have failed. We had originally had it in our budget request. The current budget request, we're asking that we release funds to do it now, so
You don't have to do this again.
we don't have to do this 8 more times. So that's what you have in front of you right now. The work is actually, the repair work is completed to where, as far as we could, without putting the ceilings back in place that would have to be ripped down again to replace the damage, or to replace the suspect flexible joints. So the repairs to the gymnasium are completed, the repairs to the inner lobby of the Performing Arts Center are completed, and the repairs to the walls of the upper lobby of the Performing Arts Center have been completed.
Right.
I have a question.
Ladies first.
Thanks, Jeff. So I was just looking, I was trying to understand the math. So 341 is for the repair of the current failure, and then the other 342 is to look at the other 8 joints. Is that correct?
That includes the professional services and the
Okay.
construction costs.
So, but you had, in the budget, there was 250 that you
Correct.
were going to do, but now that number for the 8 joints is 342. So it's just incrementally higher. So I was just trying to understand the difference between the 250 that's in the existing budget request versus the 342. Is that, am I looking at it the right way?
You are looking at it, and I can't recall.
You could
I
come-
can't recall
Okay,
why
you
there's
could
a
get-
difference.
Okay, could you just come back to us on why?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I just want you to know that that work was bid out through public bid, so that it
Okay.
wasn't through, we just didn't have the contractor who was responsible to do the repair work continue with that. It was actually bid out previous to the failure. So-
No, it makes sense to do it now, and also because you still have some openings in this,
Correct.
so now is actually the optimal time to go ahead and do this, so I just trying to understand. Thank you.
Yeah, I think when the request went in for 250, as Dan said, it hadn't been bid out yet, so it was
Okay.
purely just an estimate, best guess at that point. So
But you-
now we have real numbers.
But you'll come back with the details.
Absolutely.
So I have 2 questions. One, can one from the plans and specifications, for people's recollections, be pretty comfortable that with the work that's being done, we've actually identified all of the joints which were of this expansion joint character? Or do you think there's a chance that we have 1 or 2 that we might still miss?
I think we're pretty positive in the Performing Arts Center, that
You can identify all of them?
within the Performing Arts Center.
The next question is a question that I'm going to ask Dan, but I'm actually not talking to Dan. I'm talking to the risk manager. I'm talking to the town attorney who we don't get to talk to at all anymore. Because here's the complicated picture with that. So on each of these losses, we paid a deductible. I gather the deductible initially was $25,000. Since then, it's grown to $100,000 on the most recent claim. Do I have that right? But we have a piece of that, which, although the claim is subrogated to and taken over by the insurance company to investigate and probably enforce, we're partners with them. And with this, I think we're partners with them for another $342,000. I'm actually talking to Dan, but I'm talking to you. Because we'll piggyback with them. They'll do the engineering research to see if the design of the joint was flawed, or whether the installation was flawed, or if there's some other failed sequentially. And in the end, when the insurance company is pursuing its claim to recover its loss, I want to be sure that we're involved with that as a party to that lawsuit, because I want to be able to recover this 342 plus the 100 plus the 25 plus the 25. There were 3 of these joints, right, that broke, 2 of them at 25 deductible? 2. 2? I'm sorry.
This one.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to malign you. Only 2
Right.
broke. But we're still in it for 25 plus 100 plus 342, and that's a fair amount of money. That's $500,000 more or less. I want to be sure that we're pursuing that. You've got that under control?
Yes, I'm working with, I think I'll sit up here. I'm working with the attorney from Philadelphia for Chubb to make sure that we're part of the subrogation. The lawsuit has not been filed yet. He's still in the investigation
He
phase.
needs answers first.
But we will recoup whatever we can. The 340 that we collect from the insurance carrier, we can't double dip that, but we can definitely collect on the deductibles.
Yeah, on the 340.
Oh, for replacing the joints?
Yeah.
That is not a covered risk. A covered risk
No, no.
is anything that
No.
results from the
But that's the
failure.
damage of the town. And when the lawsuit is pursued, again, let's take a hypothetical. Suppose the investigation demonstrates that the units were improperly manufactured
Yes.
and predictably would fail. We will have spent $25,000 of the first loss for the failure, $100 of the second
Right,
loss,
right.
and we will have incurred $342,000 to remove defective joints and replace
Right,
them. And
correct.
all of that is the damage of the town.
Yes, I'm
And-
sorry, I misunderstood. I was
Okay.
looking at the 341 from the damages on this current.
Yeah, no, but I
That was
want to
my
be sure
mistake.
that you've got
Yes.
all of it in your gun sights.
Yes, that will all be included.
Those are the points. So Kelsey's a question, but I was actually trying to make a point. But yeah,
Understood.
Thank you.
My apologies.
I wanted to confirm on the numbers, on the request that you're making now, I guess it's more on the response and reconstruction. All of that is incremental dollars that you're spending. It's not equivalent time of your staff that might have been working on something else, but it's not an incremental cost.
Green dollars.
It's incremental dollars.
Incremental.
Great. And the account code, just on this cover sheet, and this question's to Mr. Geiger, do we put in these funds will come from, at least for the additional appropriation, will come from the capital non-recurring fund?
Yes.
The other expense, which the Board of Ed has spent out of your operating budget, when the insurance claim is resolved, then their funds are replenished in the operating budget, is that correct?
No, when this is approved, the expenditures that are in the operating budget will be journal voucher to this new capital project.
Okay,
And the insurance proceeds, whatever they are, will go to.
back to capital non-recurring. Okay, so
Did
your
that-
Board of Ed budget's made whole, and
Yeah.
we're taking it.
Wait, I'm sorry, I missed that. So it's not in the current operating budget, it's in proposed in next year's budget.
The
No.
money
Capital.
to address the joint that just failed,
Yes.
that they've
But that was,
currently fixed,
we're gonna
they've
put that in
already-
operating, yeah.
They've already
Yes.
spent their operating dollars to do that.
Got it.
There-
Okay.
That will be replenished from capital non-recurring once the RTM approves this
Got it.
item, and then whatever insurance proceeds you get, go back to capital non-recurring.
And then insurance. Got
So
it.
Roland, I have another question for you. The overtime custodial mechanic security. I thought on the first time this happened, we actually removed that from our reimbursement. However, it certainly was included for the insurance reimbursement. Did you check that, on the first item, whether we actually approved in our appropriation the the BOE overtime custodial mechanic security? I thought we had removed that totally.
I think we removed the part that was not incremental.
Yeah,
I thought we removed it all. Roland, could you
I
just,
can take a look at that.
could you take a look at that? And
It would seem to be appropriate to include any incremental expense. So even if we didn't do it last time, I would support the full incremental expense. Those employees would not have worked overtime. It was an
Any regular
expense.
salary, we would eat no matter what.
Correct.
Anything incremental, such as overtime,
Right.
should be part.
So if we did it the other way last time, I'd say we were wrong, but I would like to include that expense now.
I think, well, I would like, before I comment on whether we're right or wrong, I would like if Roland could just, check on that for us. I certainly agree that it all needs to be reimbursed by insurance.
It was all included in
Right. And
It will
as
be
it,
again.
I mean, if you go back to Superstorm Sandy or any of those, we did that same thing. We didn't necessarily initially reimburse the departments, but we did certainly get the reimbursement from the, or whoever, FEMA or the insurance. Are there any, so Roland, what's different on this than if it had come in the budget as we originally planned is that this item probably would have gone into our bonding fund, and this instead will be paid from cash out of the non-recurring, because there will be no bonding resolution with us. Right? And is there anyone who wanted to do a bonding resolution with us?
I mean,
Oh,
had it-
consider it, I mean.
Had it been done as part of the budget for fiscal year '21, I might have thought about it. But it's much more important, I think, to get this work done. RTM won't meet until March, so it won't be approved until March. So you've got a little delay on the funds as it is.
Well, I think that it wouldn't delay whether the bonding resolution is together with us or not. It shouldn't delay the delivery of the
Yeah.
funds. The funds would come out of,
I don't know how big the bonding resolution would even be at the end of the day, because we can't bond for insurance proceeds, for example. So if we get most of this back through insurance proceeds,
You
there'll be
don't have
nothing,
the balance.
there'll be
Well-
nothing left to bond.
Right.
well, the only one that we could consider would be the 342,000.
That may be, that might still come back to us if it was a faulty construction, right?
It may come back to the subrogation.
Yeah.
So
They're
you're,
not subrogating any part of the 342 for the new work. It just becomes part of a single lawsuit that's brought in the end. The insurance company
Right.
disclaims on the 342, and rightfully so. So
Right.
it's no part of the subrogation claim, it's not part of our deductible, it's something else altogether. It's just it has to be, eventually, when there's litigation or a claim made against with the manufacturer or
Right.
the installer or both or whatever is found to be in the end, you need to roll that. I'm sorry to go back to the earlier point, but I've already beaten it to death. But you've got it, but it's not a subrogation claim, it's a separate.
No, I was just referring,
Okay.
it kind of piggybacks that, but it's going to go, we'll have to litigate that.
so we have two pieces of additional information coming from us. I think Dan is going to come back with the differential between the 250 and the 342 and why, the details of that. Roland is going to go back and look at our first
See what we did with
approval,
the
what we
original.
did. But other than that, does anyone have any other
No.
motions?
I would make a motion to approve $682,503.
And I'd second that. And do we need anybody back at the BET for this? Because we could just make this non-routine too.
This is, I mean, I'm happy with non-routine as long as we get our information.
You're saying routine.
I'm saying.
Oh, routine
I'm
or
sorry,
non-routine?
I'm sorry.
You're saying
I'm
routine.
I'm misspeaking. I mean to say routine.
That's what I thought. I don't, I would say it's up to Mr. Mason, but I would not think the Board of Ed needs to be present at the next meeting, but
I
he'll
mean,
determine that.
I would
If it's-
agree, but
If it's routine, normally we don't ask people in your role to come and talk to the full
Understood.
BET. The only hesitancy I have is that because there's been so many meetings today, we don't have very many BET members present. There's only one other.
Only one other.
The stalwart Karen is in the back there, but other than that, we don't. But if somebody needs your presence, Mike Mason or somebody will let you know.
No problem.
Okay.
Could I just ask for an explanation then? So you said that the funding wouldn't be available until,
This is a new appropriation, so it has to
Understood.
be approved by the
RTM.
RTM, which does not meet in February. So it's going to be next, I don't know what the cutoff is to get it on the agenda for March.
there's still plenty of time.
Is there
I think,
plenty of time?
yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure.
So it would be on the March
We've already
agenda.
submitted the
Yeah.
paperwork
Okay.
to the RTO.
Thank you. So
February 10th.
you'll be on the March agenda then?
Yes.
So
Second
those in
order.
favor?
Aye.
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 So that's 4-0.
I think that is, try to figure out how the work is going to get done. right?
Well, you know, yeah, on one hand,
Yeah,
if the money's not available, I can't go to contract.
right,
I can't go to a contractor
right.
who doesn't have a contract or a purchase order to pull his bond to do the work.
You can solicit a bid, a contract from him, you just can't countersign the contract. You can explain to him, Dr. Jones would be glad to explain the arcane financial arrangements that this town makes with them, but you can explain to him that it requires the rubber stamp from the RTM at the March meeting, so you can't countersign the contract, but let's go ahead and get set up, and let's get a start date, et cetera. which
We
is-
already started, so it's a point of,
I don't want to hear about that.
No, but I think you did talk about how you started to get the emergency. You can work on emergencies, so you took care of the emergency situation. And as I understand it, you haven't started the work on the additional couplings. I thought you were going, or maybe you have. Anyway, I don't want to know that on the TV camera. So,
I think they're fine.
I'm
Do you
sorry?
know what the oh, you've already put yourself onto the agenda.
March 9th, and then I think there's a budget review on the 2nd, and the Finance Committee will be invited to that for the interim, and then the RTM budget.
Okay, great. Super. Thank you very much, and thank you for coming, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Internet,
So our next item on the agenda, there's no old business,
like cellular service?
is new business,
Nice.
and it's the economic conditions report, which I believe, Jeff, you rightfully in another meeting asked if Roland would update this again for us, which he has. And Roland, do you want to just run through the,
Well, the revenues are kind of the same as what we looked at, what we saw last month. Everything's pretty much on schedule in terms of conveyance, but building permits seem to be trending lower. We're about $500,000 below a year ago.
Yeah, 450,
Interest, of course, is
350.
running ahead. So the three together should be probably better than budget.
That'll wash.
so conveyance is just a little bit off of last year. It's like almost
Conveyance
flat.
was even, yeah.
Almost flat. So Roland, that is against a budget of $5 million. So it looks like this is achievable. We will meet and exceed our budget for the year if we get the same kind of performances we have year-to-date. And building permits, though, looks like it's going to be a bit tougher. They're off about 16% year-over-year. Pete?
If I could just add to the building permits, there was one outlier. Bill Maher said that there was a building permit for $350,000. That's not reflected in this. So it
That's not in
takes.
October?
See, I think he said it was sandwiched, didn't he? At
He
the-
did,
I
yes.
think-
Yeah, so I mean, you have to factor it in. But it really, when you do extrapolation, when you have these unusual permits, they kind of distort it. But it's going to take up some of the building permit revenue. But to go back to my presentation on the revenues, Bill, he reduced the next year budget down to, what was it, $4,260,000. So he's reflecting that it's trending lower, notwithstanding unusual large building permits like the Stanwich one.
I'm just looking at the October number of 690. I think that might include the 350.
I thought he said it wasn't reflected. If it is, then they're really down. Do you think it's in the
I
690?
think it's in the 690. I don't know what else would have accounted for that huge.
I could ask him.
operation.
Either way, it's next year, it's going to be a lower budget number than the $4,500,000.
So if you just know that for our
So when-
consolidation day, that would be great.
Yeah.
I could actually go in Munis and look it up in 30 seconds.
But at Consolidation Day, you're going to be suggesting to us some revised figures for some of these assumptions, such as revenue.
Not on conveyance and not on building permit. Yes, on the third category, the one on the bottom, the interest,
I see.
by a lot.
Maybe after consultation with Bill Maher, maybe at Consolidation Day, you could be making a suggestion on the building permitting as well.
To go up?
No, not to go up, to go down.
Oh, okay. I'll ask him, yes.
Yeah.
I think Pete said he's already reduced it to 4 million, you said 260, so
Okay.
we'll see. And it's something to think about, and I think additional conversation would be helpful. So, next item, so any more comments on the economic conditions?
I was sort of surprised,
Just-
sorry. Please
Uh,
go ahead.
The only comment, this is a request. Oh, I left that downstairs? Thank you. The only comment on the expense year-to-date, and this is just asking you to do a little work next time you produce this, but if you could just, I think the way we look at it is total fire or total police, can you aggregate those larger departments that we're typically looking at and just hide the other lines, but that would be fire, police, DPW, health, human services, Board of Ed, libraries, and parks and rec.
Can I just make one or two comments?
Yes, please.
Really, if you want to properly analyze figures year to year, you need to dig down. If you go to the 130 department, for example, I'll give you two examples.
Yeah.
You see where my department's up 91,000?
Yeah, how
The-
come?
It's your fault. It's actually the BET's fault.
Okay.
We gave you, the BET, 175,000 last year, and this year, we gave you 500, and that's where the difference is the spending is up, aside from other factors, and if you go maybe to the selectman's office, you have a gap where you don't have 6 months of Alcava's salary, so in order for these numbers to be effective, you need to analytically review the variances to come up with the reasons to see how they're really trending. And each one might have a different story.
Some of what I know that I look at it for is to see what I think the year-end impact might be in fund balance. So the fact of why somebody's underspending versus not, that's a different application, but that's also important. And the other thing that affects these numbers is the number of pay periods. So that can change year to year.
Definitely. And you could, in an example, they don't have fixed charges here. There could be a large payment that you doubled up in 1 month where you didn't have in another, like in the 901s, for example. It's a huge number, it's $64 million, but to your point, is you have to take all of these into consideration if you're going to evenly match year to year.
I think it's hard to evenly match it, but I do think that it's worthwhile getting this update. And so, Roland, thank you very much for putting this together. Any more comments?
No.
Deborah, you're okay too?
I'm good.
Okay, so the next and final item on our agenda is, well, it's not the final, but the approval of the Budget Committee meeting minutes of January 21st. Do you have a motion?
I moved the minutes.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the vote's 4-0-0. So our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, March 10th, again in the Cone Room. And so do I have a motion to adjourn?
I moved that too.
Second.
Deborah, you did?
I did?
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
4-0.
Thank you. Record meeting.